Welcome guys to another session of Honest Talk About Women, where you'll learn tips, tricks and strategies on how to navigate the minefields of dating and relationships. Subscribe to the channel and also comment in the comment section. Please contact me on my email listed below if you have a story you'd like to share with viewers. Today's story is about, shall I have kids? Now this is a very big one guys, and this overall summary of a short video could be broken into at least a dozen plus separate videos on each of the specialist areas that you will encounter, the possible minefields of having kids and also the benefits of having kids. So let's get underway. So this will be the most important decision in your life guys, because it's with you for the rest of your life. Once it comes out, they can't be put back in. And you've got to be totally committed to the parenting process involved with having a child. Do it well and it can lead to fantastic rewards. If you do it haphazardly, then it can have major consequences, major headaches, and a life of drugs, alcohol, low self-esteem, aggravation, and not to mention the psychologist and counselling bills associated with that. You want to have kids that can be fully functional in society and navigate their way through the minefield of life. If they're not prepared when they leave home, then they may become dysfunctional and become a liability to the state, and the government will have to pick up the tab for that. And so often you see this where kids feel unloved or they haven't been parented properly, and it becomes the liability of the state to look after them. And there's major consequences for that. So let's just start with saying that there is no accidental pregnancies. You hear it quite often in social media. Women say, I got accidentally pregnant by my boyfriend. I only knew 2 weeks. There's no such thing as accidental pregnancy. There's about 12 plus contraceptive devices out there in the marketplace. Most of them, some of them are free. Others are government subsidised, but there's no lack of choice, guys, to work what works for you. So I don't buy into the accidental pregnancy story. I'll just tell you a bit of an experience, guys. I had a girlfriend in my late 20s. I was 2 to 3 months into the relationship. We were quite physically involved. And I remember after one session afterwards, I went to the toilet and came back. And I saw her trying to empty the contents of the condom inside her. And I was just blown away by it. I was just absolutely blown away by it, because I did not want her. I didn't think she was parent material, and I was totally blown away by her actions. So obviously that relationship didn't go far, but she obviously wanted me to be the father of her kids. And in that situation, you hear quite often NBA stars that visit different towns, also other professional athletes, and they get instructed to always take your condom out of the room after you've finished. Otherwise, it could lead to unwanted children and certain claims in courts for money. So I totally agree with that advice that professional athletes get, but also it can be carried right across the board to all people, all guys out there. So the challenge, guys, is to find a girlfriend that has maternal instincts. They absolutely adore kids. Quite often people are chasing their careers, and it can lead to a conflict. And who's going to be around to manage the kids? Father or the mother stay at home and looks after the kids? It's got to be something that you've got to work out as you go down that track. But having said that, it's really getting increasingly hard to find those ladies that want to stay at home and have a family. And also the financial pressures associated with that. Because back in our parents' day, you could survive on one income, but due to economic changes and things getting tighter and tighter, it's basically a two-income city, mostly in the big cities. And for those guys that, for those ladies that want a guy to be the provider and provide for them, it's a very small percentage of guys can actually afford these days to have a one-income household. Given the average wage out there is about $60,000 US dollars, $66,000 US dollars, And to survive in some of these big cities, you've got to be earning at least 120,000 US plus just to survive. That's not getting ahead, just to survive. Families are a lot better with two parents actively involved. The statistics that come out show that two-parent families have a better success rate than a single-parent family, especially boys. They need a fatherly figure involved in their life for discipline and guidance. And done well, it can reap benefits. But if there's an absentee parent involved, especially if there's an absentee father, it can go astray big time. So kids really need their parents, and they crave for their attention. And I have a story of when I was working quite long hours and coming home, and one day I'd worked about a 14-hour day, and very, very tired, coming home exhausted. My day hadn't actually finished because I had to do admin in the evening on the computer, pay bills, do other things. And one of my daughters stayed up late, not late, but 8 p.m. about, or thereabouts back then, waiting for me to come home so she could have me read her a story. And I was totally exhausted, but I agreed. And so I jumped on her bed, lay next to her, and it was quite a big story, and it was going to take 20 or 30 minutes. So being time poor myself, I decided to skip some of the pages as I was reading it to her, and she was wide awake and said, "Dad, you've missed 2 pages. Go back." And she took the pages back, and it was a long story. My energy levels were going down, and I was starting to go into sleep mode, lying next to her, and I could feel her elbow going into my side, saying, "Wake up, Dad, wake up." And I had to finish the story. So there's no cheating kids of time. I can assure you they love spending time with you. So if you find a woman who you think is marriage material, based on my experience, I had a few girlfriends in my 20s, and I remember having one girlfriend that was just a total party girl, and there's no way that she could flick the switch to be a parental, maternal mother with kids. She was just totally into party mode, and she wouldn't have been a good woman. So the challenge, guys, is to find someone out there who actively wants kids too, and who will be a good mother to your kids and to her kids. So who will be a good parent to the kids. That's the challenge. It's getting harder, guys. I know it's getting harder compared to our parents, but it's still possible, still doable. Obviously, a 2-parent household is a lot better than a single-parent household. I do understand it's not always possible, guys and ladies, for various reasons. But should you decide to get married, then that puts a whole new layer of complications on the path, because you're entering into a institution that has very defined contractual obligations under what the government has with marriage law, and should it come unstuck down the track, it can get quite nasty, and you can't exactly walk away that easily. Not that you would want to from your kids, but from your wife. So you've got to navigate that very carefully and give it really good thought as to whether you want to get married, because it's a tricky one. Because even though you're not married and still living together, you can be deemed as a married couple. So the same laws apply. It's very tricky. Honestly, get expert legal advice on that, guys. The ideal solution would be get a ironclad agreement in place. Her assets as at this date, your assets at this date, and what the future contributions will be financially as the years proceed, and updating that every 3 or 4 years. It's called a marriage contract. In other countries, it's called prenuptials. So get some expert advice on that. There's a lot of intricacies and minefields to be associated with that. So assuming you found the ideal woman and you've have or have not got married, but you plan to stay together and have kids, then you need to work out who's doing what, because it's a big challenge. So the first thing that will occur when you have a child is sleep deprivation. And not everyone can handle sleep deprivation. I've had various businesses in the past where it's been around the clock and shift work, and you've got to be have a different sleeping pattern to what most normal people have. So I had no issues at 2 o'clock in the morning bottle feeding milk to the girls. It was expressed milk where you just heat it up lightly. So I've seen it happen time and time again. Party girls getting married, the first child arrives and sleep deprivation absolutely destroys them. They can't handle broken sleep or can't handle being up during the night if the baby's crying, if the baby's coughing, and so forth and so forth. So you've got to put the kids first and then change your lifestyle. And I remember one girl who was in our circle who was a real party girl, and she was good fun to be with. But when she got married to another guy and they had their first child, she just flipped and suffered postnatal depression, and the marriage broke up, unfortunately. She just could not do the transition from party girl to maternal mother. So there's going to be that possible challenge at the start. So the first 7 years is crucial, guys. If you do the hard yards in the first 7 years, it can quite often, you can pull back as the years progress because you've got the fundamentals right. So when I say do the hard yards, that's been around for the kids, giving them nutritional meals and helping them with their education, the basics of reading books, writing, maths, and then you're into a routine. Kids love routine. So sleep has got to be done at a certain time every night, whether it's 6 o'clock at night, right through to 6 a.m. in the morning. There's got to be a routine. You know, if it's 7 to 6 or 8 o'clock at night to 6 the next day, there's got to be a routine. And also kids get up early, and quite often they want the attention of their parents, and don't be surprised if they come barging into your room wanting to jump on your bed when you're in full flight with your wife or girlfriend. So bear that in mind. There's no privacy involved. You're all in it together, and you got to do what comes first. The more you can keep them off social media platforms, the better. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and for young kids that haven't had their minds made up yet, they can get influenced by misinformation, especially some of the stuff coming through on TikTok. So the longer you can have your kids off electronics, the better. But eventually they're going to come. Eventually they'll mix with social circles at school, and people will have phones, and there'll be the odd person out without a phone. And there's also those type of pressures. But you've got to constantly I wouldn't be a helicopter parent and tell them what way to move their left foot and their right foot, or totally monitor their internet access, because it can be quite cumbersome to administer. But you can have controls in your house with certain Wi-Fi rules that do not allow certain websites to be accessed. We did that in the early days, but as the kids get older, you give them more freedom. And it's okay if they have accidents, and I'm talking about sporting accidents, friendship accidents. I remember when the girls were learning to ride bicycles and taking the trainer wheels off, and the perseverance and the persistence you needed to be with them to encourage them to do it without trainer wheels on. And it took a long time, and they got a few grazes on their legs. And kids have accidents, and also there'll be times when the kids are sick and you can't make it to work, and you've got to present at work, or you've got a team of people that need to be led, and the pressure's on. And who steps in? Those are the sort of questions you need to work out with your wife or girlfriend. You'll also have visits to the A&E clinic when they've injured themselves or they are really sick, and you've got to work out who's taking them to the A&E clinic. And if you go on Friday and Saturday night, you could be there for 6-7 hours, and you have a whole lot of drunk people come in, drug addicts that have overdosed. They come right past you that are on there very close to death. And Friday and Saturday nights are very, very busy with accidents. Then when the kids start school at 5, you've got to work out whether it's private or public schools they go to. Unfortunately, the public school system is almost broke. The math scores, reading, writing, they've all gone down in the last 30 to 40 years. The teachers' union is very strong, and some of them push their own ideology at school, the victim mentality. And you've also, there's still a handful of really good public schools out there, but they're becoming few and far between. And private schools are an option for a lot of people, and it's expensive. You're looking at about $14,000 to $18,000 a year for a private school, and that's just the basics. It's not the overseas trips or the camps or the sporting events and so forth. And you've got to be prepared for sports on Saturday, guys. If you've got kids that are playing sports, there's a lot of travelling involved. And sometimes in the weekends, you can just be an Uber driver, just moving the kids around from place to place for game. You've got to work out who's going to look after the kids when they're at home. Do you have an au pair or a nanny? They come and go. They have different styles. A lot of them are young girls themselves. They don't quite have the parenting skills themselves. So you're starting to delegate parenting skills over to strangers. And it's even amplified if you put them into daycare. We have a mix of strangers looking after your kids, and they can form different habits, and there's a hell of a lot of germs that go around those daycare centres, and you're forever having sick kids that requires doctor visits and so forth. Because things are so goddamn expensive out there, it's almost becoming a two-income city for most people, because the amount of guys that can afford a stay-at-home wife or girlfriend looking after the children is less than 5% these days, because in the old days your parents could do it. Father worked, mother stayed at home, but now in today's environment it's a two-income household needed to live in the city you live in. Most big cities are very expensive, and the prices have gone up quite considerably, but not the income accordingly. So who's going to look after the kids? If you have a stay-at-home wife looking after the kids, what happens when the kids are all at school, 5+? Does the wife go back into the workforce? You come across stories of where there's been an arrangement between the husband and wife where the wife's agreed to stay at home for the first 5, 6, 7 years until the kids are at school. Then she'll get back into the workforce. But when it comes up to 5 or 7 years later and the kids are at school, she's not wanting to go back into the workforce. She wants to stay at home. And it creates all sorts of rifts in the marriage. So the cost of bringing up kids, according to the tax department, is $250,000. And that's a fair lump of money, and that excludes overseas trips, skiing trips, all those expensive trips you can do with kids. So that's just the bare basics. Obviously, you can do things a lot cheaper than that if you're frugal, but not everyone has that frugal gene. So there are government incentives for married couples, and there are tax credits for daycare and so forth, but it's never ever enough to cover the full cost. It's a contribution, and with inflation, prices just keep going up and up and up. So there can be a lot of financial pressures in a relationship on who pays for what and who's doing what around the house. So as the years progress, if you've done the hard yards in the first 7 years and you got that right, there's a good chance that they'll be stable moving forward and you won't have any major headaches. The magic age is 18. For a lot of countries, that's where you can you're allowed to drink, vote, and serve in the military. So that's the term, the independence age for a lot of countries with teenagers. And in some ways, the kids become independent because they go on to university, and you need to navigate them carefully through that process, that they don't incur useless degrees and massive student loans. They've got to stick to something that is in high demand and pays well. Otherwise, you can incur another headache down the track for your kids in their 30s when they still have student loans, and there's no hope of them paying that off. So you've got to give them good advice on what's suitable at that time and place in their country and what to study. So is it all worth it? I can understand people saying it's in a too hard basket. There's too many financial pressures, and also trying to find a wife or a girlfriend is extremely difficult these days. You're not alone. A lot of people out there think that, and it can be very challenging. But I can assure you, good women are out there, and you can work out who's doing what around the house, and the attention that the kids require, and the kids that come first, and it can be beneficial. And I can assure you, I've had experiences where I've had really good weekends with kids, and also during the week, in the evenings, fun activities. Yes, it can be demanding, but it is also very rewarding. So that's it today, guys. It's been a big topic. Should I have kids? It's not something that is a second thought. It's something that you need to consider very, very carefully. I'll leave it at that. Don't forget to press the like button, comment in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a story you want to share with viewers, then by all means contact me on my email address below. Thank you.